What up, y'all? It's Ben here, and I'm excited to dive into today's Pokemon Pocket video because we are going to explore the meta, the top decks, the off-meta decks, as we see what the landscape is after this huge tournament that happened over the weekend, plus to prepare you all for this event that is coming up where we have to win 5 in a row. So before we begin, y'all, I just have to say that only about 2% of y'all who are watching right now are subscribed, so let's go ahead and do me a favor because we are trying to hit 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and we can absolutely hit that with the help of you all. So if you like the content, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, and click that notification bell button so you do not miss out on any of the daily uploads that we have on this channel. Alright, y'all, let's just go ahead and get into it. Alright, y'all, Ursi Day, shout out to her, this is like her 4th Pocket Weekly, but it's been massive to the point where there's like over 1,600 players competing on this, like weekly. They're like breaking the system here. I don't even know if it can even handle all those many people, but because we have that, we do know that like here are the decks that are dominating, but because you have so many players, we also get some creative things that we're going to dive into. So let's just start off right away by saying what dominated this tournament. All right, so the meta was all about 3 heavyweights, which you probably are already guessing, but it is Mewtwo EX, Pikachu EX, and Charizard EX. So let's break this down. So the first deck that we're going to look over is the Mewtwo EX Gardevoir combination. And as most of you all know, it's out there, it's in the world, we know what's happening here, but this bad boy of a deck made up about like 32% of all the decks that were in representation, and it wasn't just for show. Meaning the reason behind this strategy is that you're using this like baby Mewtwo, this basic Mewtwo, to apply early pressure while the big Mewtwo, or EXmon, drops the hammer late game. So really what you're getting from this is something that's very simple. You know what your lines are. You are gonna throw your basic Mewtwo up front, tank the hits, maybe throw a shot out or two because it deals 120, and then like build up to Gardevoir and then hit Side Shadow, hit Side Drive, and win the game. That is literally the lines, but right now it is doing really well. As you can see, so many people are taking it. Up next, there are like Pikachu EX variants. Pikachu was like around 25% of deck representation. However, the popularity of this deck is actually trending downwards, right? And then you'll see here we have this variation where you're running Zebstrika and you're running Pincurchin, and like this is a fun one in the sense that like it really does want to take in factor like you still have your basics, but it wants to take advantage of bench Pokemon, right? So like Zebstrika allows you to evolve when you go first and attack anywhere on the board. Pincurchin, you playing around with the paralysis, them not being able to retreat is not fun, and then obviously Pikachu does Pikachu things. And then on this variation that's right here, you're really leaning into Lieutenant Surge and Raichu. Magneton is gathering up that energy for you. You drop the Lieutenant Surge down, you're able to knock out Mons with that 140. If you hit it with the Giovanni, that 140 turns into 150, knocking out Mewtwo EX as well. But part of the reason why it is struggling is because of our next contender, and that is due to Charizard. So Charizard is now like coming in hot, but like no jokes aside, but like seriously is coming up here. Is rose about to like 10% in the top performing decks, thanks to ability to take on Mewtwo decks. So while you have Mewtwo who's able to like hit you with 150, well, Charizard can knock you out for 200, but get this, some of these Charizard EX nows are doing the same kind of thing. They're throwing in their baby Charizard, which still values from the ramp from Inferno Dance, and you're knocking out for 150. That's still taking out Mewtwo, that's still taking out Pikachu, and it's just going. And now, y'all, the thing that's even crazier is that this deck is not even its final form. So like those are like your big three that's hitting the game hard. Let me know, how do y'all feel about it right now in the comments. Are you the type of gamer to be like, nah, I'm gonna build this and I'm gonna go get my wins and like this is how I'm gonna play? Or are you the type of gamer where you're like, yo, I like doing the off meta stuff and like give me a break? I've seen 50 Mewtwo's. Like, just let me know, what are you seeing in your pocket meta? Definitely would love to know that. But now that we have like these like guys out of the way, now let's dive into the different and creative decks that we also got to see. So the first one that I want to talk about is Hayato's Fiery Trio with Charizard, Moltres EX, and Arcanine. This deck is running 6 EX Pokemon, but it had a 12-1 record. Okay, this deck proved that Moltres and Arcanine aren't just sidekicks, they're literally game changer, and it was able to pair up against Mewtwo decks and take them out easily. Like, I think about like 6 times it was able to overcome that, which is dominant. The key here is that, like, yeah, you have one Growlithe and you're probably thinking to yourself, should I switch it, should I not? Definitely check out these highlights right here, because we definitely get into this game and this is awesome. It's on the channel for you guys to watch, but you don't want to get, it's already clunky, right? Like, you don't want to get stuck with Growlithe in the basic. You really want to find your Moltres or your Charmander and like X speed out so that way your Moltres is up front. And this allows you to pivot. Your opponent's playing Mewtwo, ramp up your Charizard EX, knock it out with Crimson Storm. Your opponent is playing Pikachu, knock it out in one shot with Arcanine EX. This deck has an answer against the 2 top decks, and that's really awesome for you to be able to make those pivots. This next deck is kind of wonky, but I love it. It is featuring Greninja and Mewtwo EX. This deck went to a 9-2 finish. The beautiful part about this is that you have Greninja's versatility paired with Mewtwo's late game dominance. I really believe that this is such an interesting cook, because this is like, I'm going to assume a dual type deck. You take advantage of the psychic and you take advantage of the water, whereas like Mewtwo EX does need 2 psychics in order to do its 150, but in order to do its 50 attack you do only need 1 psychic, and Greninja you only need 1 water, so that's awesome. You have Kangaskhan as your wall that's able to do damage if you get lucky with heads. You got Greninja shuriken everybody with 20, and if it needs to get into the front line, you can deal 60 on top of that as well. And then what's really wonderful about this kind of deck is that it's a 4 prize deck. What I mean by that is that, like, you are aiming to have Kangaskhan faint, you are aiming to have Greninja faint, and when you're down 2 points, then Mewtwo EX comes up next, and therefore they have to take that out, which is worth 2 points, which is 4. So you're essentially giving yourself time to continue to chip away, get that early damage in with these, with the wall or with the quick Pokemon and Greninja, and then you take everybody else out with Mewtwo EX. Like, one side drive is already knocking something out. The high HP of 150 is nothing to joke about, and then you're just starting to build those things up once again. So this is awesome. I also see this doing well against Mewtwo decks because they take their time to ramp up while you're already attacking them quickly, and against Pikachu because it's not slow, right? Like, you're able to get into these early, and if needed, using Mewtwo EX to stomp out Pikachu. It's great. Another deck that decided to make waves, pun intended, is this flex of Articuno EX and Greninja with a baby Articuno. Once again, you do get your high rolls with Articuno EX and Misty. We know how that feels. It never feels good at all, but if it hits, it hits, and if you're in a tournament and you can get that high roll, get the win, because a lot of these are best of 3s. And same thing with this event, that's 5, like you need 5 wins in a row. If you can get the Misty, get the Misty, get your emblem, right? This is what you're looking to do. However, if you don't draw out your Misty, you have Articuno, which is like a wall, the basic one, which is 100 HP. You're able to build up either your Articuno EX in the back or your Greninjas. You're able to deal the chip damage away with the Water Shuriken. You can align the Misty to your baby Articuno and start paralyzing people, which gives you then more chances at building up and finding your line for evolutions. And so, while yes, the Misty Articuno EX combination never feels good, but this deck is looking to do other things and use Misty in other ways, so that way you can just get online faster. And I really do like the Greninja add to this, because again, you're able to attack early and you're able to be dealing that chip damage once you get to Greninja, really pairing that off with Articuno EX, because essentially Blizzard hits for 80. Then you're doing 10 to the bench and could be doing another 20 on top of that. So then when they come up, they're already in range to lose that next month. Now this is an off meta deck, but we do know that this deck is all about the disruption. And it puts Pikachu to fainting status, it puts Mewtwo's to fainting status. It definitely bullies those players, and when you know that those are the types of decks that you're going to see, this could definitely be a safe choice to play into. Reason why I bully Mewtwo's, for one, you have the weakness advantage, so you're dealing an extra 20 per attack. Also, you get to evolve if you go first. You don't mind that because Weezing is already there, ready to go online, dealing 50 damage plus the Ghastly if they're leading with that Mewtwo. And then if you're able to Koga that out and taking that Arbok, that poison stays there, and that Arbok is saying, nah, you ain't going nowhere. And what's really cool about this is that Arbok's ability corner also bullies out the basic Pokemon that the Pikachu deck wants to put out. The power in what Pikachu does is that all of the cards that are in there have low retreat costs. So whether they're retreating for just 1 energy or for free using their X speed, Arbok says, nah, we ain't doing that. This is happening. And so like, this is definitely always a good flex to be having out there if you're like, yo, I'm dealing with too much and I just kind of want to bully them myself. This is always great. Now a more niche deck came out here, which was like, ooh, okay. They're combining Moltres EX with Center Scourge with a splash of the Golbat. Now, let's just talk about these things, right? Moltres, definitely great. We already know what it does. It's ramping things up so that you can do powerful attacks. Center Scourge, in some cases, can be stronger than Charizard EX, not necessarily because, you know, the damage here, right, like 130 to 200, we clearly know what that means, but you are dealing 130 and only losing 1 energy. And so in a deck like this, that's only going to be running fire type energy, if they're online, they can deal that 130, and 130 HP is still a lot to deal with, so you are swinging. You're swinging here, and I really do like this Golbat inclusion. Golbat is very spicy because it is a 1 energy colorless attack. And in this meta where Mewtwo is running rampant, you could be dealing 60 damage to a Mewtwo EX that's taking its time to get its energy going because it has to build up. The Gardevoir line takes a while to get there if they get all their pieces right away, so you can just chip away and take these points out, force the retreats, use the Sabrinas, use your Center Scourge, and this deck can beat the meta and can overcome it because of the consistent damage that we see from Center Scourge with the weakness and the typing advantage that Golbat has over the Mewtwo decks. Another fun one to talk about is the Psychic Eggs, the Alaka Eggs, or the I can't come up with a fun name. Please let me know what y'all call this down in the comment section. But what you're looking at here is, hey, here's my wall in Executor EX. I'm building this up. I'm hitting you with 40 to 80 damage while I am building out my Alakazam. And Alakazam is wonderful because these top meta decks all require a lot of energy to play around with. And with some great pivoting between your X speeds, between Sabrinas, you can take out a Mewtwo EX in one shot. You can take out a Pikachu in one shot. You can take out a Charizard EX in one shot. Alakazam is only worth 1 point and can deal with these top meta decks with just one attack, and that's powerful. The addition of Meowth here is interesting. It did well for them, right? So like I can't say much. This allows you to draw a card, but I wonder how long Meowth lasts out there in the field and if you're willing to give that up. But I think if you getting your pieces and then you switch into Executor EX, which is your wall, you use X speed to switch it out when your Alakazam is ready to go, and then you just continue to attack, that could feel good. That could feel really good. Now that we've seen the big plays, the big decks, let's talk trends. Let's talk about like what's shaking things up. We're definitely for a meta balance, seeing that the gap between the top decks are narrowing. Mewtwo EX still dominates, but Charizard is now having its different variations, which allows you to combat both Mewtwo and Pikachu. And now the Pikachu, which like was high popularity, now that people have already started to figure out the game and see the rise, it's not feeling as like the Pokemon of choice, but we'll wait to see like what next week looks like and how people continue to innovate. Another big trend here is that we have our low energy attackers. Decks are getting leaner, right? Like Greninja, Baby Articuno, Baby Mewtwo, Kangaskhan are stepping in to handle early game pressure without breaking the energy bank. So you're getting these high energy mons, or you're getting these mons that can attack quickly and do chip damage. You know, I'm gonna throw Weezing in there too. And it just allows you to build up in the back because they don't require a lot of energy to either attack or to retreat. And you get to be like, nah, we're gonna disrupt what you doing. And lastly, we're now starting to see that hybrid decks are coming out. People are starting to think like, hey, this part of this deck seems really good. This part of this deck seems really good. How about we put it together? Charizard, meet Arcanine, Greninja, meet Mewtwo, to really just kind of like cover more matchups, cover more grounds, to say like, hey, this is the part that I felt like I was not good in. How can I add in a Pokemon line and make it work for me? So what do we get when people think creativity like that? We get versatility, we get creativity, and we get power on top of it. So these trends show that the meta is evolving, and like I said before, people are just continuing to find ways to stay ahead of the curve. So yeah, y'all, like that's it. And I really had fun just like digging into all of that, talking through it. Let me know down below, are you sticking with the meta giants, or are you inspired to try something off meta, like any of those decks that we saw earlier? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe, ring the bell for more Pokemon TCG action, y'all. Until next time, catch y'all. Peace.